We stay in like our organization and we rarely look out of it to see what other organizations are doing, or we don't even have the opportunity to hear how the other organizations did something or the challenges or failures or successes they've seen in their projects. And I think we just need to think a little differently and crack those things open. Do you have any insights or resources that could help with that piece or anything entirely? But I just feel like I love where you're going with this idea.
Two things come to mind. One is the way that we approach problem solving at the Nonprofit Science Institute is highly derived from the scientific method. And I think that if it works for you, I think it's a really helpful way of approaching problem solving. And so it's 7 steps, it's signals, and it starts with being really specific about what the problem is that you're trying to solve. And then it goes on to say interrogate your assumptions. So what are we assuming by the approach that we're taking? So for instance, one of my like big pet peeves is this idea of best practices. Cuz to me I'm like best practices for who is it really working for? But at the same time, every organization is so unique that how can we really make these blanket statements? But so I can go on a whole soapbox about the best practices, but interrogate your assumptions. So, what is driving your decision making? Generate a hypothesis. So, say, okay, this is what we know, this is what we don't know. This is given that information, here's a reasonable path forward. And then narrow down to an experiment that you can do. So, something, one variable, a very small test you can do. And follow that by analyzing your results and thinking about not just what did or didn't happen in terms of was your hypothesis supported or not, but like we were saying with theory of change, really crack it open and say, okay, did we get what we wanted to get? But also, what were the other outcomes that came with that? So, emergent outcomes could be something like outcomes that are in favor of the path that you're going towards, but there also could be unintended consequences. So, thinking about that, not just did we end up where we wanted to go, but what else surrounded that, I think is really important. And then learn from it, right? So, the L in signals is learning. And then deciding, do we want to scale this approach or if it didn't work, let's just scrap it and start over. So I think that's like a really simple framework to help you really scientifically think through problem solving. And another resource that I think is just really helpful. Honestly, I think there are so many amazing podcasts that are out there. It's like you have an expert in your ear. And so for anyone who like maybe hasn't dived into the world of podcasts quite yet, I think there are amazing ones out there. Of course, I love the one with Tasha and Evan. I think that's really a really good one. But also Haley Cooper, I think, has one called the Lead with Heart. There's a small nonprofit podcast. I have one called the Nonprofit Science Podcast, if that is your take on it. But I think there's a lot of really amazing information out there that is totally free and you can absorb it totally passively.